All right, welcome on to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome on to this Q&A. Just want to follow up something spoke about early in the week. Spoke about uh, Israel Independence Day and what do you call it? Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Memorial Day, and day for commemorating, I guess, the day of fallen soldiers. Certainly here in Israel. So we mentioned there, this idea I think it definitely needs to be, definitely needs to be emphasized. And that is that, there's an idea that the Torah says, and it'll be interesting, this applies, applies to others as well, i.e. to Noahites, whether the prohibition of right, going to the ways of the non-Jews, right, going to the ways of the non-Jews, right. So, we get caught up in a lot of things. Certainly, a person, lives outside of Israel, it's easier to get caught up in everything, on everything going around, going around a person, meaning, sales, other things. You live in a consumer society. What's going on in entertainment, what's going on in sports, what's going on in, I don't know, politics and, whatever. Right. So even though maybe certain things wouldn't necessarily be forbidden, right? Maybe, other things may not be forbidden, but over here, you take Thanksgiving in the States, for example, or, Mother's Day, Father's Day, any of these things. Now, it's not idolatry, even though there are some rabbinic authorities hold that Thanksgiving is idolatry, but most rabbinic authorities, certainly don't, and they look at it as, all about, turkey and football, not necessarily in that order. All right, the whole question is that something that should be celebrated. Now, a person would say, we're thankful, for being able to practice our religion there and different things and whatever, but, at the end of the day, going to the ways of the non-Jews just leads to other things, right? Other things that'd be worse, right? To think, technically speaking, a person went to a parade, went to see fireworks, whatever, is there anything really, can you say anything's really wrong with it, right? So we could say, if you're a guy, you got an obligation to learn, and you take off time from learning Torah when you're going to learn, that's a problem, right? A woman wouldn't necessarily apply, okay, but in general, if that would be the case, right? That's so, forget about immorality or other things, that would probably be the issue, like going to a ball game, for instance, right? Is there any problem going to, go to a baseball game? So if, again, if people would dress modestly, that wouldn't necessarily be an issue. The biggest thing you can say is that it's, maybe it's just a waste of time, right? It's this vulgarity, people aren't dressed right, this and that. So yeah, so that would be, an issue. But in some circles, they wouldn't even, like, this question wouldn't even come up. Like what's the problem, right? What would be the issue? If like someone told me many years ago, so listen, there's the kosher stands, Camden Yards in Baltimore. Yeah, so listen, if you go to a game, at the end of the seventh inning or the beginning of the seventh inning, they got mincha, right? Got to pray with a minion. 10 men, peanuts, popcorn, mincha, right? All you Jews can imagine. There's an announcement there. All you Jews, anyone wants to pray, behind the kosher stand. All right, fundamentally, something wrong here. But I just want to point out that the mentality of such a person is going to say, listen, if you're at a ball game, I got to pray, right? Right? I got to pray with the minion. Very good. Right? So what's the issue? What's the issue? Right? They don't say anything wrong with it. And they'll think like you're a wacko for even saying like there's anything wrong with it. Right? But again, it's very slippery slope. once you start to let certain things in, what happens is it's just like it's a floodgate. It's a floodgate. Things that were, let's say, more innocuous, that weren't problematic, or let's say less problematic, then you go into other things. And those other things are much more problematic. So it's much more problematic, there's no end. Right? There'd be no end to it. So that's why we would say you nip in the bud. You nip it in the bud over here. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, someone says, "Well, I have to be righteous all the time. I can't just like relax." So again, you have to know how to relax, right? With permissible things, we're saying it's a very, very slippery slope. That even things that I would say less problematic will lead you to things that are more, more problematic, and that's like across the board. That's the evil inclination, and he doesn't need, he doesn't need me to agree. The evil inclination does a great job. So even something that's like less problematic, it's not enough for a person. They'll say, "Wow, you look at this and you look at something else, or you do something else, that seems more problematic." So all the evil inclination needs, right? We've spoken about this, a number of times. All the evil inclination needs is a little bit of an opening. Once you have a little bit of an opening for the evil inclination, then it just rips it wide open. Now, how does it work? Right? We'll just throw this out there. How does it work? So the evil inclination is not going to come to a person and say, "I want you to do idolatry. I want you to desecrate Shabbos." The evil inclination is not going to do that because the evil inclination knows it's not going to work. Right? A person that is stronger than that. So what does the evil inclination do? The evil inclination says, "Okay, I got a lot of time. I got a lot of time on my hand. All I need to do is make an inroads. All I need to do is make a little hole. Once I make a little hole, then it's only a matter of time before that hole gets a little bit bigger, and it gets a little bit bigger, and it gets a little bit bigger, and then it's wide open. Like they say curiosity killed the cat. So he spoke about everyone knows how bad smoking is. Right? So obviously, what's the best way to counteract it? Don't start. Problem is, once a person starts, what's the issue? There's nicotine, it's addictive, it's very hard to stop. Very good. Right? Or not so good, right? It's very hard to stop. Now, what's the issue? The issue is, let's say, how do most people start? Either they think it's cool or they want to experiment. Like there are people who experiment with certain things and it goes haywire. It could be trying things to help other things, or just in general, not even as a coping mechanism. I'm not going to say that. Just to try it for the sake of trying it. Yeah, it could lead to worse things. Definitely could lead to worse things, right? So, person say, "Oh, there's some people out there that they know certain things are taboo. So what do they want to do? They're going to try to see what am I missing, right? What am I missing?" Now, every single person will say, at some point, they'll say, "Yeah, I saw things before I was ready to see them," whatever they may be, right? And that caused problems. But as we said, curiosity killed the cat, but they wanted to see. They wanted to do. They wanted to experiment. It led to worse things. Right? So, the Torah's going to say, you got to be very, very careful. Because we mentioned the famous story with the Baal Tanya, right? Somebody wants to go to university, so the Baal Tanya said, "You got to be careful. It's heresy there." And how bad it is and different things. So he said, "Listen, I sat in your base measures. I learned by you for many years. I didn't become so righteous. If I go there, I'm not going to be so bad." Right? They also want to have an effect on it. The Baal Tanya said, "You're making a mistake. The mistake is if, by impurity, all you have to do is become impure according to the Torah. We would have, according to the Torah, that impurity is only by touch. Right? When the temple was in existence, you touched a dead animal, right? You became impure. That was only by touch. Purity? You want purity? That you got to work for. That you got to absorb. That takes a lot more time. Right? So a person thinks, oh, I'm not going to be affected by this. They're wrong. They're wrong because the impurity is there, right? You know, the impurity is there. And it sticks and it never goes away. It's buried and come up at certain times when you least expect it, but it can be buried, but it's there. Right? It doesn't disappear. So I just wanted to mention that. A lot of questions here. Somebody asks, is hell just for man? Well, I don't think animals go to hell. Animals are programmed DNA, right? Animals don't get judged. Even if a person was reincarnated into an animal, let's say, what happens when the animal dies? The soul goes up and gets judged. So the animal, there's no heaven for an animal. There's no hell for an animal. An animal has one aspect of the soul. That aspect of the soul is called the nefesh behemoth. It's called the animalistic soul. That animalistic soul programs the animal. Basically, even if it chooses to eat or not to eat or whatever it may be, it's still programmed, right? Plants, programmed, trees, programmed. Celestial, things in the heavens, programmed. They don't change, right? So by an animal, since it only has that aspect of the soul, since it's only programmed, when it dies, that's it, right? Poof, my language, it dies. Once it dies, nothing happens, right? Nothing happens. So the answer is it just for man? Yes. That's simple. That is a simple answer. Somebody here asks, one second. What's the between Satan and the Sitra Achra? They're the same. Sitra Achra just means the other side, right? Really, literally means the other side, but they're both the same, right? The Satan is the evil inclination, right? Is the Sitra Achra, as it's known as well. But make no mistake, it's not a fallen angel, right? We don't believe in fallen angels, right? Angels don't have free will. Angels are messengers, right? They don't have free will, right? They do not. They don't have. They don't have free will. So therefore, and this is the problem for the Christians, obviously, because if you look at Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7, it says God created evil. Right? So what do the good Christians do? They mistranslate that verse. Why? Because where does evil come from, according to them? Evil comes from Mr. Ask the Satan, right? Or Satan, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah? So they got a problem. Because if God creates evil, doesn't mean God is evil. Right? But essentially, if there's evil in the world, to tempt man, that's really the reason. Man can tap into it if they want to. Not a good idea. Person get punished for doing it, etc. But basically, that's our choice. But for the Christians, it got a big problem, because if evil really comes from, the Satan, from this quote unquote fallen angel, then they got a real problem with this verse, right? So what do you do when you get a problem with a verse mistranslated, right? But the verse states clear. God created evil. Now, keep in mind, mentioned many times, God is not evil. He created it. He allows people to tap into it if they want to, and either he'll stop them or he won't stop them, but they'll be punished. Right? 100%, they'll be punished. Right? That's simple answer, I would say. Somebody here asks, old and annoying question, okay. How do you find the middle without being paralyzed? Everything as idolatry, bad, and so on. Right? So the Rambam, Maimonides says it's always going to find the middle path. Right? But there are certain things, even the middle path, you don't find. Right? One of them is being conceited. right? Gaiva, as we would say. The Orthodox Tzaddikim, the ways of the righteous, and the gate of Gaiva, of being conceited, says every bad character trait comes from Gaiva. So that even the Rambam would agree, you don't find the middle path, right? Idolatry is no middle path, it's forbidden, right? You gotta say murder, there's no middle path. There are plenty of things that there's no middle, there's no middle path. So for other things, how does the person, not go crazy? Again, it's a much bigger topic here, but how does the person not go crazy when they do a sin? Whatever the sin is. They made the wrong blessing. They desecrated Shabbos. I don't know, whatever it may be. How do they not beat themselves up for what they've done? How do they, what does the evil inclination do in such a case? You gotta say, come on, you've been learning for so long. You've been watching all these videos and whatever, and you keep making mistakes. Jewish community, will never accept you. The rabbinical court will never accept you. And you beat yourself down more than anybody else would. Now, if that's going to be for motivation, and the person's going to say, okay, I got to really crack the books. I'm really going to try and understand the best of my ability. And I got to keep going. Even if I do make mistakes, and I want to strive for perfection, that's good. That's good motivation. If it's paralyzing, that's bad. That is what the evil inclination wants. That's exactly what the evil inclination wants to beat you down, right? See, you never do it right. You don't pronounce it right. You always make mistakes. You don't dress right. The Jewish community won't accept you. Goes haywire. Can drive a person absolutely crazy. I would say like this. You got to take what you do seriously, whether you're a Jew or non-Jew, right? A JIT, a Jew in training or a Noahide. You got to take what you do seriously, for sure, right? You got to feel bad about what you've done. You made a mistake. You got to work on not making mistakes. And I mentioned this many times as well, that if a person let's say they keep making the same mistake. They make a lot of the same mistakes over and over, right? So Shari Tshuva, Rabbi Yonah says, why don't you do it the first time? Come on. You can say, oh, I can't believe you do it. I did it. How could it happen? Second time, third time, also like that. By the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth time already, you already think it's a mitzvah. Right? So a person has to be very careful. Very, very careful. On the one hand, Rabbi would say, if you live in the past, you have no future. You can't think, you can't just blow it off. You can't just say, well, I did it, I repent and whatever, and and you move on, right? Part of you has to do that. On the other hand, if a person keeps making the same mistakes over and over, you got to get to the source. Why is the person doing it? Then once you understand, or you may understand why you're doing it, so then you got to figure out a plan how not to do it. And what triggers a person from doing it. Yeah, I'll give an example. Let's say a person's a smoker. Finally, they've cut down. Maybe they finally quit. A lot of times people quit. They start or whatever. What gets them to start again? So you tell me, okay, it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to stop because it is addictive, right? That's why they put nicotine in it, right? It is addictive, right? Very true. But let's say a person stops and they stop for a long time. Why do they start up again? You can say maybe, they miss it, what it feels like, whatever, maybe, right? It's probably part of it. But how does it normally happen? Stress, right? What's the first thing a person's going to do when they're under a lot of stress? Take a cigarette, cool them down. It doesn't, it could be for years and years and years. The person stops smoking, you're under a tremendous amount of stress. Bad habit starts up again. You're going to say, what happened? I got it out of my system. It's still there. Right? Still there. Right? So basically, a person has to work on, this is hard work. You got to work on what's the trigger. What's the trigger of what a person's doing wrong? Now again, does that mean you have to be, super fanatical and OCD? Obsessive compulsive, did I fulfill my obligation? Did I wash my hands properly? Did I do that? Listen, it's good to know what to do. Halachically speaking, it's good to know what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to do it. That's for sure. At the same time, you want to do it right. Forget about intention. I'm not even talking about Kabbalah. Forget about intention. You just want to do what you're supposed to do in the right way. Very good. And if a person made a mistake, you say, "Oh, I made a mistake." You beat yourself up for it, whatever, but you have to move on. But the problem is catch-22, because if you blow it off, if you totally blow it off and say, "Well, did the rabbi say if you live in the past, you have no tomorrow?" Very good, but you can't totally blow it off. You got to take it seriously. Also, you made a mistake. You polluted the universe. You made a mistake, and you keep making the mistake. You got to stop. How are you going to stop? Depends what it is, whatever. But the point in general, find out why you're doing it. What is causing you to do this? What triggers you to do this? And then try and figure out a solution on how to stop it. That is what I would say. Someone asks, how can I change my mazel? My heavenly influence to turn good? Yeah, it's a good question. There's a big issue, though. There's a big issue. The big issue is the end of Tractate Shabbat. The Talmud says Jews, if a Jew is born, on a certain constellation, right? That's what they argued. One of the friends of Job argued. All the things are happening to you because you were born under, a certain way the stars were. Yeah. So the Gemara says, "Ein mazel Yisrael." Doesn't matter how the stars are set up by us. We have the power to overcome it. If a person was born, let's say, under the mazel of Mars, right? Let's say Mars was, the constellation, of Mars was a certain thing, and that had heavily influence when you were born. Now, Mars is red, right? Planet is red in general. What does Mars represent? Blood. Now, someone born under that mazel could have a strong affinity for blood, i.e., murder, killing people. Yeah. So if a person can be more violent if they're born under that constellation, let's say. So how do you fix that? So the rabbis tell us, okay, so if you have this affinity to blood, so use it the right way. Be a surgeon. Be a shochet. Be a ritual slaughterer. Be a moil. Do circumcision. Now for a woman, it's going to be a problem. Other things pretty much forbidden for women. Right? I was just learning something today, very interesting, in the laws of giving testimony. Right? You see that how the Torah is connected. There was a whole discussion if people in a city, right? People, can people in the city testify on things in the city? Let's say on certain decrees that that the city made. Could they testify against these decrees? Something like that. There's no question why they'd be allowed to testify and go to court for whatever it may be. There's a problem. They're what we call nogea be'edus. They're biased. Everyone in the city is biased. How can anyone ever testify? So it comes out, just whatever, no long drawn out discussion, but it comes out that we hold that even in the same city, they can testify. Everyone's biased, doesn't matter. Since it's for the sake of the city, everybody uses different things in the city. They have a right to testify. Now, why do I bring this up? What does that have to do with women shechting? Doing ritual slaughter. It's one of the commentaries on the Code of Jewish Law in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shach, known as the Sifsei Kohen, that's his commentary on what do you call it? On the Shulchan Aruch on the Code of Jewish Law. So the Shach has a whole long thing over here, and he wants to bring a proof. He says, there are certain things. Let's say a person, did a person ever see this was a custom in the city? Let's say women getting married, there's a custom that they cover their hair or they wear something on their head, right? A certain thing, whatever it is, that they wear on their head, right? There's a custom like that. Now, the question is, there's a custom to people actually seeing women do this when they get married. So if the answer is yes, okay. But even if they haven't seen it, right? So the Gemara asks the whole question, even if a person hasn't seen it, is that the custom? Who cares if they haven't seen it? Maybe that's the custom anyway. Right? Maybe that's the custom anyway. So without going into the whole discussion, he wants to bring a proof from over here by women doing ritual slaughter. Why? Because he says you never see. He says you never see a woman that women learn the laws of ritual slaughter. That's not one of the things they learn. Not only don't they learn the laws of ritual slaughter, they don't do ritual slaughter, right? Because he says it's never been that women do ritual slaughter, right? So that became the custom, right? That became the custom, right? Again, the whole question why it's forbidden, but anyway, that's not the topic. The point is, if that's the custom, whether people have seen it or not, then that becomes the custom of the city, right? So in this case, he says, no one's ever seen a woman shecht. No one's ever seen a woman do ritual slaughter. That must be the custom. That's going to be the custom. Yeah. So there's an issue over here. The issue is, the Gemara says, "Ein Mazel Yisrael." There's no Mazel, the way the heavenly constellations are set up when a person's born, right? For the Jewish people, that doesn't apply. In other words, even a person who was born under this constellation, whatever, you have the ability to break it, to stop it. Whatever that heavenly influence will be. Again, if they were born under the heavenly constellation Mars, right, they have more affinity to blood. So good. So they can use it in the right way. They can use that affinity for blood in the right way. Very good. Yeah. But the Gemara says, commentaries tell us, even though there's no Mazel Yisrael, right, that shouldn't affect us. In order to break it, you got to work really hard. In other words, there's something going on where it's going to have an effect on you. But we just said there's no Mazel Yisrael. It really shouldn't apply. But the thing is so powerful. The thing is so powerful that you have to work really, really hard to break the influence. That's what the commentaries say. Now, what about a non-Jew? We just said Ein Mazel Yisrael. Yesh Mazel Laku. There is Mazel to non-Jews. So non-Jews kind of stuck. Right? So now you ask me. That was just introduction. You ask me, how can I change my Mazel? Right? Mazel for non-Jews doesn't normally change. But what do we say though? If you're born under constellation, whatever. Right? But we say, Shinui Makom, Shinui Mazel. Maybe it only applies to a Jew if a person changes their location. They change where they live. Not necessarily going outside their country. They move somewhere else, different house, different apartment, whatever it is. Right? So maybe in the apartment they live in, they had a lot of bad things happen. So if they go to a different apartment, maybe it'll change. Maybe that'll change. Now, can that apply to a non-Jew also? It's a good question. It's a good question. So I would say, even if it wouldn't, even if we say non-Jews are stuck, right? Even if we're going to make such a statement, person wants to be good. Person wants to go on the right path. What should be the mantra? The mantra should be, God, you're the one in charge. I want to do what's right. I want to go on the right path, and God will help you. Now, how do I know that? Even by non-Jews. Because the Gemara says, person wants to go on the right path, God will help you. You want to go on the wrong path, God will not stop you. Right? So how did non-Jews come out of idolatry? How do they come out of idolatry? Paganism. Most of them searching for truth. Or you can tell me, well, they have that spark because they were really a Jewish soul. They got the Torah Mount Sinai and then it got messed up through assimilation into marriage. How a soul that's Jewish becomes non-Jewish? Very good question. Right, that'd be Kabbalah 101, 101a. Right, very good. So, changing your place might change. That might change. what happens? But if a person has a sincere desire to go in the right path, right? There are many things, people think, well, maybe I need to do this, maybe I need to do that. I'll tell you the first thing to do. The first thing to do is if you pray, right? That's what you tell God. You say, I want to be better. I want to, I want to be able to work hard on this character trait, other things, right? You need help, right? The evil inclination is very, very powerful. The Gemara says that God created the evil inclination, but God gave an antidote. What's the antidote? Torah. Well, the Gemara says Torah alone doesn't help. You need heavenly influence. You need God's help. Isn't that neat? Right? It's so hard to overcome. You need God's help. You need God's help as well. So when we pray, when Jews pray the Shemona Esrei, silent meditation, Amidah, whatever you want to call it, in the fourth paragraph, when we have to start asking for our needs, that first paragraph, or the fourth paragraph has its own, we ask for knowledge. We ask for knowledge. Now, why do we ask for knowledge? If I don't ask God to give me knowledge, does it mean I don't have knowledge? Does it mean I'm an idiot? No. What type of knowledge are we talking about? Spiritual knowledge. Nothing you can ask him, help me pass this test. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be this. Whatever it is, you can ask him to help in that also. But the knowledge that you want, that we desire, is spiritual knowledge. So that spiritual knowledge you got to ask for. God's not just going to give it to you. You got to, it's God can do a chesed and help you, right, and guide you, and hopefully, that a person will take the right guidance and go in the right path. But you have to want it. See, one of the things, I'm not saying you're asking this, one of the things I see very often is the fact that people want a quick fix. This happened, how do I fix it? This happened, what's the answer? What's the remedy? How do I fix it? And you know what? There's not an easy fix here. I remember, I heard a great rabbi here speak many years ago, right before Yom Kippur, and he said, for there are people always looking for things, go to great rabbis' graves, go, do other things, say Parak Shira every day, which is supposed to be good for, livelihood and to find a marriage partner, or say Parshas Haman, say the parsha of man and Parshas Beshalach, all supposed to be good for for livelihood, etc. But that's not enough. You got to put your best foot forward also. So right before Yom Kippur, so the rabbi was saying, a lot of people looking to save themselves this way, save themselves that way. He says, I got a very simple way to work on yourself. You know what it's called? It's called repentance. It's called tshuva. There are no quick fixes, right? There are no quick fixes. You got to work hard, right? There are no shortcuts. I've been looking for shortcuts for years. There are no shortcuts. I mean, not anymore. Not looking for them. But, I found out there are no shortcuts. You got to work. You got to roll up your sleeves, and you might fall. And you might fall again. You might fall a third time, a fifth time, an eighth time. Doesn't matter, right? You got to put in the time and the effort. Things don't happen by osmosis, right? So the question you're asking is, okay, how do I fix it? You got to work hard. I would say one of the things is, first of all, you got to pray for it. Pray that God, put you in the right direction. You're able to overcome the evil inclination, right? So to speak. But you have to, it's not enough. It's not enough to say, okay, I want to turn into good. What practical things are you going to do to get to that point? I'll give an example. Person says they're going to go on a diet. Very good. That's one of their resolutions. What are they going to do? They're going to go on a diet. Okay. So a few months later, you ask them, great, how's the diet going? So, well, I never started. It's just a thought I had. Right? You got to exercise, got to be careful what you eat. A lot of things. Right? A lot of things the person has to do. Okay. So are you making the effort to do it? To turn, and be good and do what God wants. What are you doing to get to that goal? It's not an instant formula. It's not an instant formula here. You got to work hard. You got to want to change, right? That's the first step. You have to ask God to help you change. You have to read books that talk about change. Musar is very good to learn. Paths of the just, ways of the righteous, right? The gate to repentance. You got to, make a list. What things you want to change? What do you want to work on? Figure out why you do things that you shouldn't do, and then make an effort to try and fix it, right? That's those are a few examples I would say. Someone asked a conversion from Kulano's organization, Kosher. Don't know. I have to check that out. Someone told me 1 week that 600,000 men, and I searched more and more. The argument isn't valid only for Jews, also for Christianity. Not true. Christianity never makes the claim of any of JC's actions, whatever he did, all his miracles. Is there ever a claim in the New Testament? Again, I'm not world-class expert in the New Testament, but I guarantee there's no claim ever made in the New Testament that he did his miracles in front of 3 million people. Christians don't claim that. The Muslims don't claim that. The Mormons don't claim that. But the Mormons come to my door. When I was in South America, second biggest group of Mormons outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. Not sure how they got to Santiago, Chile, but okay. And they're like, don't you understand? John Smith, found this Book of Mormon in a cave, after 200 years. I'm like, wow, great story. I said, did you ever read Exodus chapter 19? Chapter 18, 19, Jewish people come out of Egypt. It says 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60, not including women and children. It's about 3 million people. And then God revealed himself, right? God revealed himself to the Jewish people, told them the 10 commandments, right? First 2, they heard themselves. They died. God brought them back to life. Some say they heard all 10. Same thing happened, or they had heard 2, and then Moses heard the rest, and they gave it over to them. Whatever it may be. Show me any religion makes such a claim. Show me any religion that makes such a claim. There is none, right? I'll stop you right in your tracks. There is none that make a claim that God revealed themselves to an entire nation, not a few people, not 100 people, not 5 people, not 3 people, to an entire nation. One nation makes the claim, never, ever, ever been duplicated. And that's the Torah that God gave the Jewish people on Mount Sinai. Right? Right? Where do you see in Christianity that's the case? Show me. Show me where he did miracles in front of thousands, millions. Right? We'll make it easy. Show me millions he did miracles in front of. You don't have any sources. He did them only in front of a few people. Right? Even Muhammad. Yeah. His flight from Mecca to Medina. How many people saw it? How many people witnessed it? Millions? Not even close. A few people. If you tell me there are 100 people that saw it, okay. If you tell me there are 1,000 people that saw it, okay. Right? Doesn't matter what the numbers are. It wasn't in front of an entire nation. That's the point. Nobody makes such a claim except the Torah has never been duplicated. Look at all the sources. Tell me. Show me the source. Show me a source that says he did miracles. Or any prophet, quote unquote. Whether it's Hindu, whether it's, Islam, whether it's Christianity, that miracles were done by their prophet in front of everybody. That God revealed himself in front of everybody. You don't have it. I'll save you the time. You can go to Rabbi Dr. Google. I'll save you the time. It's never happened. The only quote unquote religion that ever makes such a claim is Judaism. It's Judaism. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, other questions here. Doesn't the yeshivas teach secular subjects? Some do, up to a point. Meaning, up until probably 7th, 8th grade, they probably teach basic math, basic grammar, etc. But they don't teach secular things, right? In modern Orthodox yeshivas, they do. Right? In modern Orthodox yeshivas, they teach more secular subjects. In ultra, I should have made that clarification. In ultra Orthodox yeshivas, they do not, after a certain point, Usually by high school, they do not teach secular subjects. So you're going to say if that person wants to get a job or whatever, what are they going to do? So if they have to have a degree, so they're going to have to learn, right? But they are not taught, for sure not taught in ultra Orthodox yeshivas. In more modern Orthodox yeshivas, they are, right? It's a big difference, right? It's a very big difference, but they are not taught secular subjects. Yeah, let me see. Someone asked, we have the desire, but it's dangerous. Where is the line we shouldn't cross? No, I'm talking about something else. I'm not talking about conversion. Oh, I wasn't talking about conversion. What I was talking about was in character development, not conversion. For non-Jews, you want to talk about conversion? Can they keep Shabbos fully? No. You have to do something on purpose to break it. That's not finding the middle path. That's something totally different. I wasn't talking about that. I wasn't talking about that. And prayers in certain, and prayers are less limited, I would say. Right? They can't say Shalos Goy, right? They can't say, thank God I'm not a non-Jew. They can't say that, so after conversion. And anyway, women would women also say that as well. Yeah, there are certain limitations. There are certain limitations in prayer. Shabbos for sure, or a festival, you get to do something on purpose to break it. But again, I was talking about character development. I wasn't talking about conversion on that. Someone says in a recording of somebody, okay, that there are angels, whose job is to disrupt things if they become too righteous. Same as the angels that act on behalf. Again, can that be? Can that be? That's also, God is sending them as messengers. Or the evil inclination using them. Right? You can also probably do that. Right? But even that that I don't know. That I don't know. They're angels whose job is to disrupt things if they become too righteous. I don't know. If someone wants to become too righteous, they're going to work really hard. They're going to be a lot of impediments. Tremendous amount of impediment. You see that by how righteous Job was. What's his name? So the Sultan says, let me have some fun with him and blaspheme. God says, no, he won't. So he says, okay. God says, I'll allow you to do it, but you can't kill him. You're not allowed to kill him, right? So he's limited, right? He's limited. So yeah, does God test people also? Sure. He's got a lot of ways to do it. I will say, just my own opinion for what it's worth. Here somebody said, I don't know who this rabbi is, but angels' job is to disrupt things. We can't, people come to righteousness and that. This bothers me. This bothers me because these type of things, I understand. I understand that these are interesting things or whatever. This is way beyond anyone's understanding. People I'm talking to, it's way beyond the person's understanding. How it works, this and that. I did recommend the book, Derech Hashem, right? And I went through it twice. Gave classes on it. There are spiritual forces and how they work in different things and, etc. Good. Is this something someone should be focused on? No. It's interesting, right? Again, plenty of things that are interesting that I would say have no relevance to a person's life. It's interesting coffee table talk, I would say. Now, there's some people that give class on a lot of this stuff. I think it's a waste of time. I think it's a total waste of time. Yeah. Why do I think it's a waste of time? Because what does it do for people? Oh, the angels do this and the angels do that and whatever. You're living in this world, practically speaking. You don't see angels. You don't see what goes on. God hasn't opened your eyes. There's no prophets here. Right? The only prophets are either imbeciles or little children. Nobody is prophecy, nothing. Yeah? So what is this what does that relevance have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? Ah, makes you feel real spiritual, yeah. Angels can do this, and this one can do that, and this is how it works in the world. Who cares? Practically speaking, so what? Right? So good. We understand the spiritual forces, right? We understand in a certain way how it works. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's interesting. Why the Ramchal go through it? Because we want to show people that's interesting and how the forces work, right? What goes on in this world, what goes on in the spiritual world, how the spiritual world has the ability to influence this world and influence us. Okay. More than that, more than that, I wouldn't go that much more into detail. Why do you have to speak about it? What's the point? What's the point? Well, I heard angels might do this and do that. Yeah, so what does that have to do with anything? Practically speaking, what does that have to do with anything? Zero. Doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's interesting. That's about as far as I'll go. It's interesting, okay? It's interesting to know certain things. Good. More than that, it's a waste of time. And there are people speak a lot about this. So they, well, people want to know, people want to understand, and it's not practical. A practical question is evil inclination overcoming me, person's into whatever, sports, entertainment, whatever. Right? They want to sit there and waste their time watching these things. That's more practical. How do I stop it? When it's an angel doing it, God's trying to test you. What difference does it make? You got to get behind why you're doing it. Right? And what the purpose is and how it's destroying you. Whether this influence, that influence, another influence, who cares? Why is that relevant? Why in the world is that relevant? It's not relevant. Totally not relevant. There are people speak a lot about it. I care less. I don't want people to say they're wasting their time. Oh, it's like this. Oh, so what? Rashi says, 3 angels came, by Abraham, right? One, and he stopped speaking to God, and he took care of these Arabs or whatever, that they're angels dressed up as Arabs, very good. So Rashi says, why there are 3? One to heal Abraham, one to tell Sarah's going to have a child, one to overthrow Sodom. So what do you learn? What do I see from here? Angels can't do more than one thing, can't multitask. Okay. They can't multitask. When they're given a job, God sends them on a job, and he tells them what to do, and that's what they do. Right? That's what they do. Right? That's what that's what they do. Now, I sit there and delve more into that. Now, some people say, wow, it's so interesting. Angel, that. Okay, Rash is telling you. Other commentaries will tell you the same thing. But what's the lesson? Right? There are a few things here. Right? But what's the most important lesson you take out from that story? The most important lesson is, even if you're talking to God, right? Abraham's talking to God. He stops the conversation with God to do Achnasas Orchim, to have guests in his house. Even after, even after he did bris milah, even after he did circumcision. Right? That's the most important thing you take out, that even if you're speaking to God, which is hard to understand, even if you're speaking to God himself, guess what? He left speaking to him in order to want to have guests. That's what you take out from it. Oh, the angel this, the angel that. Who the heck cares? What difference does it make? The angel this, the angel that. That's the most important thing you take out. Now, someone's going to say, no, but angels can't multitask. So we're going to go a whole thing about angels. They're taking, they're not taking it out of context. I'm not saying that. So they're gonna explain, okay, the angels were this and the angels were that, very good. But that's not the most important thing you take out of it. It's interesting, but that's not the most important thing you take out of it. Yeah. So people have to realize they hear these type of things. Okay, maybe yes, maybe no, maybe it's not relevant. It's not relevant. It's interesting, but it's not relevant. right? That is what that's what I would say. Someone asks if an Noahide pushes a bicycle, sitting on a bicycle in an area there's secondhand cigarette smoke. Is Noahide making a sin? Secondhand smoke is pretty severe. People can die from secondary smoke. Yeah. Now, there's a mitzvah to guard your body. Right? Isn't for non-Jews also a mitzvah to guard their body. Now, if they do it now, are they killing somebody? No. Not directly. Is that a good thing to do? Smoke in public? Certainly not. Right? Plenty of places can't smoke in public, but okay. Right? So if they're giving over smoke and secondary smoke is dangerous, yeah, that's forbidden. They shouldn't be doing it. They shouldn't be allowed to do it. Right? Is it murder? No. I wouldn't say it's murder. Secondary smoke. Secondary smoke can kill people. It can. That is true. Now, what if someone is very sensitive to smoke and they smoke in public? They're allowed to, right? If they're in a place they're allowed to, they're allowed to, right? At least according to the law, right? They're allowed to. Now, is it a good thing that they're doing that? That's a different issue. That's a different issue. Is it a sin? Yes. Because here you're blowing stuff that is toxic and other people smell it. They don't have to be right on top of you. It doesn't matter. They put it in the air. Is that a problem? Sure, it's a problem. Right? Is it going to cause people to get sick and die? I don't know about that. Depends, if someone's around that person all the time. I heard someone once say a person's wife smoked like a fiend. This person, and the husband never smoked. Husband never smoked and died of lung cancer. Right? So someone said she's puffing away. He's taking in all the smoke and she killed him. Now, it's not direct. Certainly not a good thing. This is a Jew, right? Certainly not a good thing. Smoking's still a prohibition. According to everybody, it's still a prohibition today, right? It's dangerous, no question. So, blowing, so someone's living with someone that smokes, could they get sick from the smoke? Yes. 100%. It's a little bit different. Why? Because you're there all the time. So that can have a much greater effect. If it's outside, it'll have less of an effect. It can still have an effect, but it won't kill you. Potentially it won't kill you, but it's still not good to do. So it still should be forbidden to do. No, I didn't make tshuva confessing, for example, breathing secondhand smoke. Why? Why? If you did it, listen, there are certain things you're in control of and not control of. Let's say you're outside, someone, near you smokes. Okay, can you get away from the presence? You could. 100%. 100% you could. If you don't notice all of a sudden someone's smoking and you inhale it, is that your fault? Not your fault. It's not your fault. Right? If you're doing it on a regular basis, someone smokes, you're in their presence, and you smell what they do, again, it's better not to be in their presence when they smoke. Is that a sin that you're there? Shouldn't be. You're not doing anything wrong. The person who's smoking is doing more wrong, certainly more wrong than you. But the fact that you inhale it, good. So it's not a good place to be. Okay. More than that, I wouldn't say it's forbidden. I wouldn't say it's forbidden. Listen, if you're doing it on a regular basis, that might be an issue. But I'm saying if someone happened to be smoking and you inhaled it, it's not a problem. Someone asked by yeshivas, they have degree programs. Some do. Some yeshivas do have degree programs, or if they don't, probably in the same city they have there's people learn there and at night go to college at night or whatever. They don't usually have a degree program. They might have accreditation where they might get credit for class that they take. There are some places might have a full learning program and secular things also. Most don't, right? Some do. I would say most don't. Vast majority don't. Christians claim they do greater miracles than their father. They've not seen any. Right. Again, someone has it. someone has a source that says that JC or Muhammad or anybody in any other religion, did miracle in front of everybody, in front of everybody, in their entire nation, very good. More than happy to see it. Yeah, let me see other questions here. Somebody asks, what would you say is Hashem's most favorite creation? That he gives him the most joy. Good question. I would probably say man. Why? Because man's got free will. When man does the right thing, they reach very high spiritual levels. That's the pinnacle of creation. Right? But if man doesn't do the right thing and man sins, right, then we say they're not even better than animals because animals were created first. If we do what we're supposed to do, we raise ourselves to a high spiritual level, then we're the greatest of creation. So man is the greatest of creation. The reason is because we have free will. No other creature has free will. Animals, plants, stars, the moon, whatever, they don't have free will. So man's the greatest of creation. Someone here says, when I read JC made miracles, reviving Lazarus. Okay, even if he did make miracles, so what? You can have false prophets that do miracles. That's not a contradiction. They could do miracles with sorcery and other things. JC walked on water. How did he do it? They say he took God's name and inscribed it on his leg. That's how he was able to walk on water. Yeah. But even so, even if a false prophet does miracles, does that prove? That doesn't prove anything. First of all, it doesn't prove he's a prophet. And second of all, it doesn't say he did it in front of everybody. That's the point. The point is not he did miracles. The point is who did he do it in front of? Even if I would agree he did miracles, so what? It doesn't really matter. Right? It doesn't really matter. Even if he does miracles, very good. So even if I would agree he did miracles, okay, so he's a false prophet. Yeah, but that's not the question. The question over here is, did he do miracles in front of everybody? Everybody means the entire nation, not one person. That's what it means, everybody. Not in front of 10, not in front of 1,000, everybody. Find me a source that says he did in front of everybody. The entire nation, not just a few people or 100 or 1,000. Everybody. Right? That was the question. Right? That was the question. Again, I said everybody, not a large group. He could have done it in front of a large group. So what? He didn't do it in front of the entire nation. That's it. Right? If he didn't do it in front of the entire nation, right? There's only one nation that makes that claim. That's the Jewish people. Could a person done a miracle in front of 100? Yes. Could he done it in front of 1,000? Yes. Is that the entire nation? That was my question. Has any other so-called religion, their miracle worker, prophet, whatever, done it in front of everybody? The answer is no. That history has proven the answer is no. How do we find out that our inclination we should work on based on consolation to improve our character? Everyone knows what their evil inclination is. I don't even, everyone knows what they do wrong. Everyone knows what they're, what they've tried to fix. Right? So forget about the constellation and whatever. That doesn't really matter. Right? That doesn't matter how it's set up and how a person's born. We have certain biases, right? We have certain DNA that we're created with, but we've done things to ourselves. We've done things to ourselves that are forbidden. Okay, now, if we've done things to ourselves that, we've done forbidden things, the constellation doesn't matter. We have to overcome the evil inclination. Now, if the constellation is set up a certain way when a person was born, it makes it harder. It doesn't make it impossible, right? But that's not the question of what our inclination is. Everyone knows what their inclination is. You don't have to look that hard, right? What are things that you do wrong? Right? You don't have to tell me, but what are things that you do wrong according to the Torah? Do you curse? Do you speak Lashon Hara? Whatever, a lot of things. Are you do you have some level of being conceited? Or anger or other things. Yeah? Probably a lot of things you do wrong. So that's the inclination. Now the question is, where did the inclination come from? Did the inclination come because that's the way I'm born? Right? I'm born with, I have a certain disposition. That could very well be. And there are inclinations we've done to ourselves, that we've sinned ourselves, that have nothing to do with how we're born and what the consolations are. Right? And nothing to do with it. Person grows up, let's say, they're unbelievable sports fans, right? They're unbelievable sports fans. Yeah. I'm not saying born under a constellation. They have the desire to watch sports. Very good. But they take it like, they want to watch every game. They want to know all the stats. They want to this, they want to that. So it's not because they're born under a certain constellation per se. They enjoy it. Right? Someone told me somebody that, this person like watched every movie that's out there. Yeah. That's his evil inclination. Part of his evil inclination. Not necessarily because it's born under a certain way constellations are, but they did it to themselves. Certain things, again, we might have difficulty with because, we're not going to necessarily know that unless someone's born like, you have to know what the constellations are, what they represent, and, whatever. So a person can have more of a disposition. Yeah. So for a Jew, you got to work hard to get rid of that disposition. You got to work really hard. I think a non-Jew, you're stuck. Right? I don't think there's any way necessary to overcome it. You can put it in bay, so to speak. Try and put it to sleep a little bit, but to try and really 100% overcome it, I'm not sure it's possible. Right? Even for a Jew, it's going to be very hard. Right? For a non-Jew, it should be impossible to do. But whatever our evil inclination is, I'm not an expert in the zodiac by any stretch. But whatever our evil inclination is, and everything, we do wrong, a lot of it, I would say the vast majority of it is because we did to ourselves. Not because of the constellation we're born in. Being born under a certain constellation, you have certain biases, certain dispositions. Okay. Yeah. But it really doesn't matter. Right? That's really the point. It doesn't matter what the constellation is and how I'm going to know about it. It doesn't matter because whatever the evil inclination is, a person does, you're doing it to yourself. It's harder. It's going to be harder to fix if you're born under a certain constellation, right? But I'll tell you like this. Even if you would know, right? Let's make it very simple. Even if you would know what constellation you're born under, you would know what more biases you have. How are you going to stop that? How are you going to stop that evil inclination? Even if you know where it comes from. Musar, you're going to learn a lot of Musar, ethics. You're going to try and figure out how to stop it, what triggers it, right? A lot of repentance. But it doesn't really matter whether you would know where it comes from or not. Doesn't matter. Right? The question is, you have it. Right? And again, a lot of it, I would say, is a lot of things we do to ourselves. The Ramban, I think there's a Ramban in the book of Job that says that, this whole thing, you might have been born a certain way, whatever. So the Ramban there says, we're going to get upstairs after 20 years. And we're going to say, God, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? God says, I didn't do that. I didn't punish you doing this. I didn't stop you. You wanted to do negative behavior. I didn't stop you. You didn't ask me for help, so I didn't stop you. We're going to be very quick to say, oh, God put me in this situation. God put me in that situation. Probably a lot of times that's the case, right? But there are going to be a lot of times as well. You can't blame God. You got to blame, you transgressed Copin 614th commandment. Don't be stupid. You did it to yourself. Right? God said, I didn't tell you to do that. Famous story, guy jumps in, save people from drowning, himself drowns. Not a good swimmer. You don't jump in, right? You don't jump in if you can't swim. He said, why'd you save me? God said, I didn't tell you to jump in. But I had no reason to save you, for whatever reason. But you jumped in not knowing how to swim. That's kind of stupid. I didn't tell you to do that. Right? That's what I would say. When can you learn about paying taxes, finances in general? Right? It's not to learn about it if you don't learn about it in school. So you got to find a place to learn it. Courses online. I wouldn't say degrees are good for that per se. It depends. Right? Those practical things the person can learn online. Right? You don't necessarily need to go to university for that. But if it's not allowed to learn it, so let's say it's a good example. So let's say you don't learn it in yeshiva. Very good. Right? So how are you going to learn that? How are you going to learn about finances? Well, parents should teach their kids about finances. Right? But how are they going to learn about taxes and that to learn when they have to? And in any case, if a person has a job, right? Yeah, they'll have to go to an accountant, right? They'll have to go to an accountant and pay taxes, right? So how are they going to learn about that? They'll learn wherever they need to learn it. If a person gets basic math, right? Unless you're going to go into like engineering and other things, why do you need higher math? You don't. It helps, right? I was once teaching high school kids, yeshiva kids, and I was teaching them algebra, and I said, okay, you go to the gas station, you want to figure out miles per gallon or liters, or what do you call it, kilometers per liter. I said, how do you figure out that? So a bunch of guys go, this has nothing to do with algebra. I said, okay, let's see. Let's see. We'll make an algebraic equation. They had no idea. I said, you walk into a store. You walk into a store. They're selling, let's say, they're selling granola bars. I was just in a store now. They were selling granola bars, right? 3 for 40 shekels, right? 40 shekels, about almost $10, a little bit less, a little bit more, right? Then if they sell it by itself, one box by itself, it costs you, let's say, 15. If you buy 3, it's going to be, it's going to be 13. So it's cheaper. But you got to buy 3. That's how they get you. You got to buy 3, right? So yeah, so that's a little more than basic math. Okay, but if someone needed a degree or whatever they needed, they'll have to take courses, right? They'll have to take courses in basic math and other things, or higher math, or whatever they need to do for this degree. That's what they're going to do eventually. But at the beginning, they don't need it because, again, what's the most important thing? Most important thing for them is learning Torah. So until they need to go out in the world and this and that, they shouldn't focus on that. They don't need to focus on that. They need to focus on learning Torah. They don't need to get distracted by this other stuff. When they have to go out in the world and work and this and that, so they'll learn what they need to learn. But again, you don't necessarily need a degree. That's a big lie. Definitely don't need definitely need a degree. Someone wants to be a graphic designer. Very good. Someone wants to be a graphic designer. You need a degree? No. You need to learn, you need to learn that while in yeshiva? No. You do it after. Or someone wants to be a, what do you call it? An architect. A few people went learning about being an architect. Very good. So, you take a course. It's a course for a year, 2 years, whatever it is, right? To be an architect. So it could be there are certain things you might have to get extra help because you never learned it before. Yeah, maybe. Right? But otherwise, it'd be a waste of time. Why do you have to do it now? You're going to say, why learn it later? Right? What's the answer? Because you're more mature to learn it later. You're much more mature to learn it when you're younger. And when you're younger, you might not remember either. But that's what they'll do. They'll learn it later. I remember someone, they'll tell me, yeah, I'm not going to learn this now. I'm just chilling or whatever. I'm not going to learn this now. When I want to go to college, I'll take a prep course. Okay? That's what some people will do. Right? But again, most places, most places won't have higher things. They just won't. Until the time comes you want to do it. So then, you got to figure it out. Right? But you will learn it, you just won't learn it there. Because again, Torah is the most important thing. They have a business school. If you're talking about yeshiva, they're not business schools. They'll just send them to secular school, like the yeshiva in Baltimore. It's called Near Yisrael Talmudic Academy. Yeah, so guys want to get degrees. Where do they go? To Johns Hopkins. If they can get in, whatever, they go to Johns Hopkins. There's only one place where you see call it Yeshiva University. It's Yeshiva and a university, but a lot of problems with it. I'm not going to go into it now. I don't have time to go into it now, but it's a problem. It's like based on both. It's modern Orthodox, so okay. There's definitely a tremendous emphasis on secular studies. Very good, right? That's not high school. This is college, right? This is university. Talking about high school, right? Talking about high school. So in yeshivas, in high school, unless it's modern Orthodox, you're not getting higher secular education. They don't need it. If they want to go out and do something, then you need a degree, so you might need, you're going to need certain things, okay? Right? But they're not going to do it while they're in yeshiva. The most important thing while they're in yeshiva is learning, not to be distracted. Right? That's a distraction. and that takes away from learning. Yeah. When you move from your parents need to pay taxes, budgets, yeah, you need to learn these things. That's true. You might not get it from your parents. True. Parents might not teach you, right? But here it's interesting. If you work, you work for a company, they pay your taxes, right? They take care of your taxes, so you don't have to worry, right? If you work on your own, then you have to have an accountant. You have to be legal, right? For the most part, right? So you gotta learn what to do. But if you have an accountant, they'll tell you what to do. They'll tell you, okay, expenses. You can use this as expense, that expense, something else as expense. Different things, right? Now in girls' schools, I think they teach more about budgeting. In girls' schools about budgeting and that type of thing. I think they learn more about it than boys do. But guys should also learn about it. They learn it to a certain extent, but not necessarily formally. I wouldn't say formally. But girls get it more. Girls' schools, they definitely get it. What do you call it? They definitely get it. They get it more. Yeah. Let me see other questions. Other questions here. Um. Um. Yeah. Let me see. Okay. Other questions here. 1 second. I filled out a job application. Yeah. It's a good question. It's a good question. There are people, let's say if you're Hasidic, you don't even, know English. They speak, Yiddish at home. So there are people that never learn English properly. But you know what? I've daughters involved in social media, with organic social media like on TikTok and what do you call it? LinkedIn, other places, getting people, more clients. She's dealt with a lot of Hasidic customers. And even though the English might be bad, they're very good at making money. They are extremely talented. I'm not saying everybody, but people she's come in contact with, they have a strong business head, but they need to get their message out there, whatever. That's why they need social media, right, etc. So basically, a lot of people. My wife also, has dealt with a bunch of Hasidic people also. Their English might be not so good. Their English might not be so good, but guess what? Their business acumen is they're doing well. They are doing very well, right? So they didn't take these courses. They take business courses in yeshiva. They don't offer them. Some, have a business head anyway, so they don't. They might not need necessarily to be trained, right? Other people may take courses. They may take courses, right? Well, take something. Again, you don't need a degree. Someone wants to go into real estate, you got to learn under someone how to do it, right? And what to look out for and how to analyze deals. Do you need higher mathematics for that? They have tools today. I was involved in real estate also. So they have tools today. You put in, it's an equation. They figure it out for you. You say, okay, how much is it worth? How much can I get for it? How much can I rent it? What are the expenses, right? What are the taxes? What are, insurance, other things? Yeah. So there are programs out there, they do everything. They analyze it, but you don't even have to think about it. But you have to, you should know what you're doing. Obviously, if someone put it in a program, you got to see where, where's the location and different things. So a person will learn, but again, you learn on the job, right? You get the information, you learn on the job. People have better, business acumen, less business acumen, it doesn't really matter. But it is kind of funny. You have people that barely speak English. I'm talking about, Hasidic people. I'm not talking about Puerto Ricans or, other ethnic groups. Just talking about Hasidic people where the English is not so good. They may not be so good, but guess what? They're doing fine. They if they have to write, flyers or different things, they'll pay someone to do it. They'll pay, they need to run ads or whatever. They'll pay someone to do it. Yeah. If they write letters to people, they'll pay someone to do it. Worth it for them. They're not gonna do it themselves because their English is bad. You say, isn't it better? They could save money, learn better English. They could. In theory, they could, but they're not interested. They're interested in making money. So, now you get GPT. That's even better. All you do is put in what you want to say, and someone else, and this AI will write it by itself, make it better even than someone who could write it. Yeah. So it's like, not so much you need to do yourself. You can always outsource it. You can always outsource it. But someone will say, isn't it better to know basic things yourself? Sure. You know, the basic things a person should know. Okay. They'll get it. Right. Right. They'll get it. I don't think, I don't think it's a problem. Right. The question is, how much they have to really put in the effort to do it. It's not rocket science. It's definitely not rocket science. Right. These are things that, not hard. Not hard. You probably do things online. You get someone to teach you. It's not, it's not so hard. Certain things I had to learn, let's say in real estate, different things about, declaring things or whatever, for taxes. I didn't know that before. College didn't help me for that. I learned because I had to know, right? But once you learn something, you learn it. That's it, right? It's not, people learn how to budget and different things. Sure, is it rocket science? It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. Don't live beyond your means. You got, you can say what's really important, what's necessary, and what you're taking in as extras. Where to save money. There are ways to do it. There are people that do it. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's so complex, but you got to do it, right? Someone asked, we follow the 613 commandments. A lot of them you can't do anyway, but okay. You learn ethics from our fathers and Mishnah Torah. There are lists. You're not learning the Rambam, right? There are people, I hear this all the time. So yeah, I just bought a whole set of the Rambam. Okay, the Rambam is what the Code of Jewish Law is based on. Rambam, anyone doesn't know, is Maimonides, right? So a lot of Jewish law is based on the Rambam. We don't, Ashkenazim don't do everything the Rambam says. Sephardic people like, the Rambam's like the final authority, where everything's based on. Okay, but learning Musar is very good, right? Learning ethics is very good. Learning ethics for our fathers is very good. But again, these things, a person has to see what they do wrong. A lot of people don't necessarily know what they do wrong. That's why learning ethics is good. That's why learning what's it called? Gates of Repentance. Rabbi Yonah is very good. Right? Got a very good translation in English. Right? And how he learns up some of the mitzvahs and what the penalty is and whatever. So puts a person in a certain frame of mind. That's good. The person who says, I feel everything I do is wrong. Not everything, but you have to learn. Listen, you're coming in from the outside. You got to learn, right? That's what learning is. You got to take it step by step. For people complain, I wish I knew this, I wish I knew that, I wish I knew the other thing. Okay. I wish a lot of things also. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the time. You want to learn the laws of Shabbos, you got to put in the time. Right? There's a lot to learn. If you want to convert. So question. Right? It can be frustrating. Why don't I know this? Why don't I know that? It takes a lot of effort. And that's why I think it's funny in a certain way. I mean, more annoying, I would say, than funny. People have very little knowledge, always want to catch it, try and catch me, catch other people. Oh, look, see, you got this wrong. See, you got this wrong. Okay. Means we're human, right? Doesn't mean we know everything, right? We're human. Depends what type of mistake it is, but it's kind of funny. Someone's real proud of themselves. They caught someone. Okay, you can ask good questions. People don't know. Very good. But what's the bottom line? You're a stinking beginner, for goodness sakes. You got to know your place. It's what Mishnah Pirkei Avos says. You got to know your place. Right? So, whatever. That's what I would say about that. I know Rabbi Akiva was a convert. Yes, he is. Yes, he was. And he started learning at the age of 40. Right? Imagine a 40-year-old going, learning the alphabet. He didn't know the alphabet. Kalba Savu, his father-in-law, totally cut him off. They were like poverty-stricken. So he went, he went to learn the alphabet with his kid. Imagine, 40-year-old man or a woman, like, I gotta fit in a kid's chair. In a kid's school. Like, come on. Nothing more embarrassing than that, but look at it. He started at the age of 40. The age of 40. Or the child converts, he was a convert himself. Right? He was, sorry, might have been, yeah. Might have been. Um, uh, yeah, it was descended. He himself wasn't a convert, descended from converts, right? Descended from converts. Yeah, wasn't he was a descendant of convert. Someone asked, floor covering is stolen. No, I'm allowed to stand on that floor covering. Yes. He didn't steal it. Why can't he stand on it? He didn't steal it. Yeah, that would be okay. You're getting something, so what? You didn't do it though. So what? So what if you're getting benefit? Let me tell you, you live in America. Yeah? You live in America. You're living on stolen land. Almost every part of America was stolen from the Indians. How can you live in America? As a non-Jew, forget about being a Jew. For a non-Jew. Even for a Jew, is that a problem? Yeah, you can tell me they sold it, whatever. They had land stolen from them. Most of the land was stolen from them. People like us are dying. You killed them. Have you heard the Trek of Tears? Millions of people were killed from Florida. Andrew Jackson, famous for that. Killed thousands, tens of thousands, millions of Indians. So forget that Louisiana purchased other places. They actually purchased. They actually bought. Very good. Very good. They bought legally. Okay. What about all the rest of the land they stole from the Indians? So how can anyone live in America? So obviously it doesn't apply. Doesn't matter if it's stolen or not. You can get benefit from it. Well, why can't you get benefit from it? So what if someone stole it? It doesn't matter. Does not matter. We're gonna learn about the Baba Sali. Oh, it's a good book written on. A few good books written on Baba Sali. Do go on to artscroll.com or feldheim.com. I'll just put it up here. Or feldheim.com. In the search bar, put in Baba Sali. Right, there are a few books written on him. It's still a very sticky situation. Why? I don't. It's not sticky. Why is it sticky? You didn't steal it. I can get benefit from it, right? Come on, I studied American history. You don't know that? You really don't know that all the land, almost all the land, was stolen from the Indians. People don't know their own history. It's unfortunate. Yeah, that's the only part of the history I like, American history. I don't like European history too much, but yeah, most of the land in America was stolen from the Indians. So yeah, so so when they give them back, they gave compensation. They're all sniffing aerosol cans and have casinos, right? That helped destroy them, totally destroyed them. Why should people celebrate Thanksgiving? Don't you know what Thanksgiving was? After they made this Thanksgiving with this peace with the Indians, they came out and slaughtered them. So people don't care. It's about football and what do you call it? Turkey and football. People don't care about that. They for sure don't care about that. Right? And even people say, oh, what about the Indians? Where all the people protesting the stolen land from the Indians. Nobody cares. Nobody cares on what they did to them, decimated them. Nobody cares. Yeah. So I would say, any true American, how can they celebrate Thanksgiving? Because that's not what it means anymore. That doesn't matter. That's how it started. Yeah. Any other questions here? Someone asks, I'm gonna have to stop here in a second, but let me see. See any juicy questions here? So you're trying to say the Catholic teachers don't correspond? No. No, what I'm saying is that yeah, what the Christians did is they took a lot of things in the Torah and just made into mush. Right, that's essentially what they did. They took a lot of things and just went with their own way with it. Right, but again, I'm not here to disprove Christianity. That's not the point. Again, my point was no other religion. Just to reiterate, no other religion makes such a claim that God spoke to their entire nation. That was my point. What it says, Catholic faith mixed with paganism, idolatry. Yeah, right. We hold it's idolatry, no question. Crosses statues, or worshiping them is a problem, right? They use them as aids in prayer. So man, it's idolatry. If it would be something they worship, something they worship. They say crosses, some people worship them. They would bow to them. So that would be idolatry. Right? Not that it's used for idolatry. That's something else also forbidden to get benefit from. But if the thing itself is idolatry, yeah, it's a problem. It's for sure forbidden. Right? For sure forbidden. Oh, it's on there. Mentions very good. Very beautiful Jewish American lady published a great audiobook. Cost of Free Land. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, all right. I'm going to stop here. A lot of good questions here. I just every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel Time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook. I am Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I have videos on Q&As, Ethics of Our Fathers, for a portion of the week, even though I'm very behind. Ethics of Our Fathers, we mentioned, controversial issues. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com.